All right, we're live on YouTube here. Good morning. Welcome to Marketing Over Coffee. I'm John Wall.
I'm Christopher Penn.
And so we've got, I guess, right out of the gate, you had interesting news from Google, a change of staff over there.
Yeah, so the big news this week was that the head of search is departing. I think after something like 15 years on the job, he has moved on to I guess, nicer pastures. And in his place is now the head of machine learning at Google, which is, to me, that's a pretty big deal, because the machines are basically going to start taking over.
This is right, Rise of the Machine. This is right in the Cyberdyne roadmap for us, so we're ready to go. And it seems like every week we've talked about this, that machine learning keeps coming up. So this is right on path with what you've said before. Any other surprises? Do you expect things to really change now? I don't know. They have so much momentum.
I mean, they have. So Amit was really the guy who headed up search, and sort of his perspective, and John Giannandrea, I believe is how you pronounce his name. All the stuff like RankBrain and machine learning and stuff like that is where Google's going next. So a couple of weeks ago, I did a blog post on SEO, like the new SEO is machine learning. And if you have not had a chance to try out some of that stuff in that post, you really should start putting your content into there, put your competitors' content into some of these machine learning tools, and see what the machines see when it comes to content and SEO and things. Because if you don't do that, you are at the mercy of algorithms that, frankly, very few of us can understand unless you happen to have like a PhD in computer science. So that would be the big thing. I would expect that things like TensorFlow and other AIs are going to have a lot more relevance to all of our marketing. So get on that stuff, try it out. The good news is a lot of this stuff is super cheap to start with. Like you can deploy TensorFlow on your laptop, and then when you're ready to upgrade, you can of course use a Google Cloud service to do it. And I got my bill for my Google Cloud computing usage. It was 16 cents for January, so we're doing okay.
Yeah, you're not going to break the budget. Okay, well, a bunch of other platform stuff too. I had WordPress releasing 4.4.2, so that's got two big security upgrades. So that suggested that you take that. And at the same time, I have a link that I'll put in the show notes to a bunch of WordPress and MailChimp plugins. There's a number of different plugins that you can use depending on what you're trying to accomplish, between form sign-ups and other data, depending how you want to collect and what works best with your what template you're already using on your blog. So that's a useful resource. So I'll throw that in there. You can check that out. Now, Amazon, on the Amazon front, we had shipping getting more competitive. This was an interesting article because it was saying that, if you're not on Amazon Prime, your packages are, well, it was misleading. It was definitely a poor use of statistics. It made it sound like you were actually worse off, like your packages are not going to get to you as fast. But it was more that the rest of the world has really caught up with competitive shipping, and that, getting something in 4 days from Amazon 2 years ago would put you in the top 5 or 10 of shippers. But now 4 days of shipping doesn't even make the list of the top 20, like everybody else.
That's complaint territory.
Right. Yeah. It's literally become bad news. So and then every once in a while too, we see things pop up with, especially in urban areas where they have these, get your order in before 10 a.m. and have Amazon drop it out, drop it off to you by 3 or 4, kind of courier type services, and urban area distribution centers and couriers and all of that. I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, obviously, it seems like it is reducing the gap, because the tale was that brick and mortar would always survive, because you always have some people that need to go get it right now and can't even wait 4 or 5 hours. But I don't know. It strikes to me this is diminishing returns area. That's my whole gut on it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, unless you have like super high margin items, like you're on Amazon for some reason, you want to buy a new Apple Watch, the rose gold one, and the drone is flying overhead and drops it on your head as it's going by. I think there's probably there are diminishing returns, certainly for low margin items, but I would assume that with enough artificial intelligence powering its behind the scenes, that Amazon knows what is what in terms of margins.
Yeah, and where to go. And it is interesting. Yeah. Now, there was also a story this week, rumor about Amazon doing more bookstores. Up in Washington, they did a college bookstore, and of course, that is one holdout, the bookstore industry seems to be doing well. I actually see bookstores being built in college towns, so that's still working to some degree. But I wasn't sure it wasn't through an Amazon source. It was some real estate developer that was talking about this deal. So I don't know if these stores would actually be bookstores, or if it fits with what we were just talking about, the fact that Amazon knows, how many Apple Watches get shipped to each city every week. And I imagine that they could staff distribution centers and brick and mortar stores with the right collection of goods for the right level of profitability to make it worthwhile to create that in-store experience for them. So that's I'm thinking that's not really bookstores, but it's something else. But yeah, you think Amazon is going to get even more into the brick and mortar? Is this where they want to be?
My guess is they will start to double up some of it with things like you said, where these are almost like mini distribution hubs and stuff for major, metropolitan markets. They already have the centers outside of cities for like the giant robot-powered warehouses, but it wouldn't surprise me to have a little more showrooming, because at the rate e-commerce is changing, one of the things that does get left behind is that whole showrooming aspect of people getting a chance to look around, go, I would like to, I'm looking for this thing. And even the recommendation engine say, like, I'm looking for this coffee, and I'll recommend you other coffees and stuff like that. But it's not the same as a real shopping world experience where you're looking at the coffee and over here the toasters, and you're like, oh yeah, I need a new toaster. It's very hard for the machine learning algorithms to figure out disconnected things that you would still spend money on.
Yeah. So the kind of classic checkout line garbage, high margin junk is a little bit more difficult to call out because there's no purchase data that they have. Oh, that's a very interesting point. There's a whole entire set of data that the brick and mortar stores have actually that Amazon does not have grip on, because they don't know that, as you're going to buy beer, you're going to get diapers and potato chips, the kind of stuff that Walmart is kind of an expert on. So
I forget which retailer it was, but someone put chocolate and candy next to feminine hygiene products in a retail store, and it was like an instant win for margins. And I have even seen in some retail stores differential margins. So the price of the thing at the register is higher than the price if you go back on the shelf. And even in the grocery store, if you look, the little box of gum on a per unit price is like 3x at the register than if you go to aisle 5 and just buy the 3-pack.
Right, and buy the 5-pack. Yeah, no, that is God, that is interesting. Total diversification. Yeah, all right. So I can drop one of my grocery store tricks is that there's always fresher bananas over by the registers than over in the produce section. That's kind of one of my quick insider tips. Oh, and I'll throw this out too. So this is a crazy one. I got an email from my health insurance provider that they've partnered with a group who is there to align my grocery shopping so that I buy healthier groceries. So I've added 4 or 5 of my affinity cards from different grocery stores, and I literally get an email now back saying, "Okay, here's how your shopping went, and man, you got to stay away from the Hormel chili because that's a 42 on the 100 scale." And so yeah, they even have a discount program associated with it too. If I buy vegetables, I can get money back because obviously the health insurance company wants me eating more vegetables and less cans of Hormel chili. So.
Yeah, see, that's where the smarts is. If they can start handing out discounts, like you have $50 to spend this week on your groceries, but if the healthy stuff can get you in at 40 and the unhealthy stuff goes up to 47, you'll spend the 40.
Yeah, no, exactly. But like you said, money in hand, kind of. So that level of data analysis is pretty interesting and a lot more to watch. And just hopping back for a second, though, putting the chocolates next to feminine hygiene products, that just seems like unnecessarily cruel. But again, people will vote with their wallets, so perhaps maybe it's needed. I'm not going to, obviously, a topic I have no business speaking on whatsoever. So we will move forward. All right. Speaking of spending less time on things that you know nothing about or don't work, we've been talking a lot about the new stuff that Infer has got, and some of it's here. We've got for MOC listeners only. If you go to infer.com/MOC, enter your email. We've talked about how the simulator works. The system works. It will tell you as to whether or not could be a good fit for you and your organization. But they've added a level to this. If you score above an 80, you'll be qualified. You'll get a pre-model assessment. They'll examine your last 12 months of Salesforce data and give you a full report on lead conversion metrics, campaign effectiveness, optimal timeframes for lead conversion, a bunch of interesting stats. I've got to check out these reports, and it's very cool. So infuse intelligence into your sales and marketing staff. Infuse intelligence into your sales and marketing stack. You can create lift with Infer. Again, check that out at infer.com/MOC. Yeah, one of the charts that I saw, which is, you can get to this data, but to have it running in the background all the time is just so much more effective, where, you see how long should it take your leads to convert. When you're looking at a list of leads and they've been in the system for 50 days, do you keep running campaigns against them? Do you throw in the towel? And to be able to, accurately say, well, we know that 90% of them convert by 110 days. So you've got 50, 60 days left. That kind of actionable data makes a huge difference, especially when you start getting in the 10,000 plus leads per month range. So excited to roll that for those guys. And we appreciate their support of the show. So thanks to them. And getting back to the rundown here. Let me see. This is one of those too many windows open days here for me. LinkedIn hack for job hunters. You had a neat trick.
Yeah, so this week I was lecturing at Bentley University with CC Chapman, talking to his e-marketing class. And a lot of the folks are juniors or seniors starting to look for their first job. If you've ever logged into LinkedIn, and you, one of the first things you see at the top of your page there is people who have viewed your profile, and you click on it. It'll show you the last 5 people that have done that, and of course they want you to upgrade to see who else checked you out. But flip this around. If you're a job hunter, here's a query you can try typing in right now. Quote, Greater Boston area, close quote, because that's the name LinkedIn uses for this region. Quote, VP marketing, close quote, site LinkedIn.com/in. The reason you have to have that /in is because that the profiles have a different URL structure than the rest of the site, Pulse and stuff like that. What that's going to do is give you everybody in the greater Boston area who has VP marketing as a title somewhere in their profile, on their LinkedIn profiles only. And then what you do is you start clicking through opening up multiple tabs to open the first 10, first 20, first 30 search results you get. Guess what? Now you, as long as you're logged into LinkedIn, are going to show up in those 30 people who have viewed your profile. And it's an easy way to get some visibility, costs you no money, and just do it every day.
Yeah. And then in your job, you've got your short snippet of your skills. You can say you're looking for new opportunity or expert in providing whatever. And that's a great little hack, because everybody is checking those. Who's looking at me? You're playing the ego card perfectly with that.
Exactly. Please, salespeople, please do not abuse this. We're not going to put this in the show notes.
I've already get enough abuse of that. I love when I get a LinkedIn request and literally the person's quote unquote individual profile is like, do you need a website for $295? It's just like, I think I'm going to pass on connecting to you. I don't see you adding any value to my day. Speaking of LinkedIn too, I had another question came in from the front line about iOS 9 and the upcoming. We've talked about the ad blocking thing. Now in iOS you can use third-party ad blockers, but Ryan was asking, will these blockers mess with Google Tag Manager? So that's something that we need to be concerned about.
So they don't block Tag Manager itself. They would obviously block an ad tag that fires inside of Tag Manager. But here's the one thing. Google has this new, the Google's leading consortium called AMP, Accelerated Mobile Pages. We've talked about it on previous episodes. They just released analytics for AMP. So for Accelerated Mobile Pages, previously you had 0 analytics whatsoever. It does not work with tag management yet. So it is just web analytics. I have a video up on YouTube of how to implement AMP and the Google Analytics tracking code for your mobile site. But that's probably the greater danger, is that Tag Manager will simply not run on AMP pages. And if AMP really starts to take off, as Google is pushing very hard to have it do, we may lose that, at least for a little while, until I'm sure Google will figure out eventually how to get it to work, because they have a strongly vested interest in making it work.
Right. And like I said, the advertising, most of the ad blockers are looking for all the known domains that are serving up the ad networks and all the content. So messing with the Tag Manager seems like asking for all kinds of other things to fail, especially when you consider all the different kinds of tags that people, especially tags that recognize the user, that make being recognized part of the mix too. So. All right. Well, that's good. So nothing to sweat with that. Right off the top of the list. I had a new product, Sony podcasting. Sony Mobile Apps has a podcasting app that they've sent out a beta request for, and I'll be able to report back on where it's kind of neat. It would actually scan the podcast and create a transcript, and then by selecting the transcript, you can create socially shareable audio clips of the specific transcript points. So if you're a podcasting geek, this is something that could make sharing chunks of podcasts a lot easier and simpler to do and pass around. So I will report back after we play with that. And then, so I've got on my list, I actually did pick up a copy of your latest book and have read it. So we're ready to go. But what I want to do for Leading Innovation is we'll do an author interview. We'll do it just like you're a guest author. We'll pretend you're not
okay.
a guest host, and we can just do a whole show talking about what's going on with the book. But it is funny. I had to laugh because it's, having worked with you so long, like I've actually heard all the stories. It's all stuff that, and they're all great stories, and I've heard them stretched out over years. So for folks that haven't been working on a project with you for 8 years, you can get this all in one easy book and save a bunch of time. But it is great. So how is that going anyways with the launch? Because we talked about that last week that you were kind of kicking off. So how have things been moving?
So far, so good. Done about, I think, $900 worth of sales in the first couple of days, so not too shabby. I just actually started my AdWords campaigns the other day and stuff. One of the things I do, because I'm bootstrapping this, is I'll take the initial sales in the first couple of days and plow that revenue back into AdWords to boost stuff. Pitching has been different this time. I've pitched a lot more to media outlets and stuff, and I've gotten some good initial pickups and things. What really surprised me, and again, we're not going to put this in the show notes because I don't want salespeople and marketers ruining it for everyone. I have been using. I wrote some software to do direct messages on Twitter. Out of 1,000 direct messages, I got 2 people who with go take a long walk off a short pier sort of return commentary. You got about 15 people saying, "I'm gonna go check it out." The analytics show that about 30 people have gone out and actually clicked on the links to go through, and 15 or 20 have unfollowed me. So as much as we all say, I hate direct messages, I hate this, I hate that, the data, at least so far, granted, this is a sample size of one person, and these are people who already follow me, so it's not like I'm not saying go out and spam the whole planet, but as long as you're selective in your filtering, direct messages can work. Now what's interesting is that I've got in my database, I've got a series of influence scores I pull in from different APIs. The people who respond with all the FU and stuff are all in the 20 and below, the real low influence folks. The people who are in between the 30 and the 50 bracket are all like, cool, I'll check it out and stuff. So there's different responses depending on where you are in your influence strata.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, and there is something there about the vocal complainers who are irrelevant anyways. It's kind of like, again, who cares if half of them bail if those are the under 20s and they're not your market anyways? That's almost. So I guess the great part about it is in future iterations, you would just exclude those, and now suddenly you'd be getting all the positive and none of the long walk.
Exactly. I had one reporter write a scathing public, spanking of my pitch and stuff, which was cool, because any publicity.
Right. You can take that's it. So what was it was just like, oh my God, you sent an automated DM? I mean, that was
he was saying, my pitch. He was like, the world does not need another innovation book. I'm like, that's your right. I'm not gonna to light you up about it. So. It is what it is, right?
Last time I checked, markets weren't made by tonnage, but rather by the quality of the content. There's always room for another good innovation book, just because there's been 10 other crappy ones before. That's kind of myopic. I would, but of course, there's always upside in writing poor reviews. That always gathers clicks and generates heat. So we'll take it. We'll take it. All right. How about road trip? You've got anything else going on?
Got some client visits and stuff coming up in the next few weeks and stuff. No major shows. First show is going to be Martech in San Francisco in March. I'll be speaking on scaling innovation. So we'll be bringing the book to the big stage in about a month.
That sounds good. The book will be up and running, and we will report back on that. Martech 2 is a big show for the spring. There's not a lot of the spring is definitely weaker than the fall, so it's good to have a big spring show coming on. Yeah, a lot of stuff in the pipeline, other books, and plenty to report. So we will be back to you next week with I have another interview after roll, but I think next time you hear from Chris and I together, it will be talking about leading innovation, and we will give you the full story then. And until then, enjoy the coffee.
Enjoy the coffee.